let's do the recap. So our definition for love is, right, selfless action, often sacrificial, that it goes towards the receiver, the person that you're trying to love, and it is for their benefit, right? And it is not contingent upon how you feel. Right. We also said that love includes everything that you need to have a healthy relationship. As a lover, you have to focus more on what you are giving than what you are receiving. Right. Another thing we said was you cannot love someone more than you love yourself. Now, you may think that you love you, but your behavior from your subconscious mind will betray you. OK, and when it betrays you, you need to pay attention to that. Last week we talked about the way that you love is based heavily on the way that you learned it, right? Most people come to marriage looking for love as opposed to looking to give love. Okay, so that's kind of the recap of what we've talked about over the last couple of weeks now. Before I get into the content today, I want to share a story with you. Okay, so long time ago, there was this teacher, and he's teaching a group of people. It was a lot of people, maybe about 10 to 15,000 people he was teaching. He had a big crowd. And his staff was like, hey, you need to let the people go because it's getting late and they need to go get something to eat in the surrounding towns or whatever. And the teacher was like, well, why don't you give them something to eat? And they were like, we didn't bring anything, so we can't feed all these people. And so then this little boy comes up and he has lunch and he has some fish and some bread, whatever. And so he gives his fish and his bread to the teacher. The teacher takes the bread and the fish. He divides it. He tells the people to sit down. He divides it and he ends up feeding all 10 to 15,000 of these people. So much so that after everyone had all they wanted, there were still 12 baskets of scraps that his staff picked up, right? So next day, teacher and staff, they go to the other side of the water in a boat. People come looking for him. They can't find him, so they get in the boat, go to the other side, and they say, hey, when did you get here? We were looking for you. And the teacher said to them, and this is the point of my story and why I'm sharing this with you. He said, the only reason that you're looking for me is because I gave you those fish sandwiches yesterday. You don't really want anything of substance. And then he said, unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you can have nothing to do with me. And they kind of looked at him sideways. And he's like, this dude crazy. Like, this is a hard teaching. And it says that they all left. And then he turned to his staff and said, are you going to leave me also? Right? So the reason I share that story, and some of you may have heard it before, the reason I share that story is because I'm not a surface kind of person, right? Particularly when it comes to relationships and love and, relationships and love. Yeah. I'm not a surface person. And so I understand that everyone's not where I am, but what I'm going to give you today may be a little deeper than you are probably used to. Okay. And so I just wanted you to be aware of that. And actually on the heels of that, let me mention this. I think this is important. And as a matter of fact, I created a slide for this one. So let me go to slides. Let me show you this, right? And if you trust me, just stay with me. Okay, just stay with me. So religion and God are not the same things. Yes, I am going to talk about love, trust, and believe. But I need to give this to you first. This is like my disclaimer. Religion and God is not the same thing. Okay? Religion is a set of rituals man creates in order to get to God. If you read the Bible, God hates religion. And I put 2 scriptures in there for you to look up on your own. So oftentimes, people have an issue with God, or they think they have an issue with God, but they really have an issue with religion. And the reason that I share that with you is because I don't want to mention God and you think I'm talking religion to you, right? And I don't want you to tune your ears off before you really hear what I have to say, because I'm telling you, it's for your benefit. Okay. So now let's get into it. So we're created for love, right? Our greatest desire is to love and to be loved. God gave that to us. He put that in us. But now, if we're created to love, then why do we fail at it so often? It is because we focus more on receiving than giving. And then why do we do that? Well, because you have an issue with your heart. And I'm going to come back to talk about the heart towards the end to tell you what that is. But you've heard me say before that love is not about you. Love is about the person that you are loving, right? But pride is about you. Pride is about my needs, my wants, my hurts, my desires. You cannot walk in love and pride at the same time, right? Now, remember I told you that fear was the opposite of love? So fear is the engine of pride. It's what drives pride, right? You ever seen the blue button on the when you get ready to go to the mall, you see the blue handicap button on the side of the door to open the door, the automatic door, right? So push the button, you can walk through it. Well, fear pushes the button so that pride can walk through the door, right? Fear pushes the button so that pride can walk through the door. Now, watch this. You don't have to let pride walk through. You don't have to. The door is open. When fear shows up, the door is open. But pride doesn't have to walk through if you turn to love to overcome fear. You understand what I'm saying? If you turn to love to overcome fear, then pride doesn't have to walk through. Love is the only thing that can overcome fear. That's just how it is, right? And when I'm talking about fear, I'm not talking about the fear that saves your life. I'm not talking about the fear that's generated in your nervous system, right, to keep you safe. You see a lion and you run. I'm not talking about that fear, but I'm talking about a debilitating fear. The false evidence appearing real kind of fear, right? Now, watch this. If fear is darkness, then love is light. If fear is darkness, then love is light. Darkness can never overcome light, okay? The only way that darkness ever wins over light is if light gives up. So then, if your relationship seems to be full of darkness, guys always fighting, complaining, being stubborn, it means that there's a lack of love flowing through your relationship. And that happens when you focus more on receiving than you do on giving, okay? And when you do that, you become extremely vulnerable to pride entering into your relationship. Once pride enters into your relationship, things go haywire, right? Now, here's the reason why pride is so dangerous. Pride is dangerous because it can dress itself up to look like righteousness or right living, or, I have a right to talk to you this way because of what you did, right? You don't deserve my company, or you don't deserve my conversation because of what you did to me. Pride will make you think that you're right. See, pride is like cyanide, or if you are a Breaking Bad fan, then it's like ricin, right? It's an odorless, tasteless poison. And once it gets in you, it is destructive, but you don't know it's in there until you're in it, right? So, it will feel like you are going the right way when you're walking in pride, but you're not. And I often tell people, love is patient, but are you? Love is kind, but are you? Love does not hold grudges, but do you hold grudges? Love forgives, but do you forgive? Okay? See, society says, when you hurt me, then I need to hurt you. You got to pay for what you did to me. But love says, when you hurt me, I'm going to love you more. Nobody's running the sign up for that. But when you decide to love someone, you give up the right for revenge. People don't realize that. When you decide to love, you give up the right for revenge, right? When you come to marriage, your primary role is giving, not receiving. Receiving is your benefit, but giving is your primary role, right? Remember, love is a choice. It's a commitment that you make to it's a commitment that you make to your partner's life joy, right? And now let me clarify what I mean by that, because what I'm not saying is that you're responsible for your mate's happiness, right? Happiness is an individual reality that we have to work on ourselves. So I'm not saying that you're responsible for their happiness or their joy, but what I'm saying is when you choose to love them, your greatest desire for them is to be joyful. Now, we know it's life. No one's going to be joyful all the time, but I'm saying that's your goal for them. Now, here's a good rule of thumb that I have for husbands. So husbands, your goal is her smile. Okay? Your goal is her smile. And then for wives, your goal is his authentic confidence. Authentic being the operative word, because sometimes we men can have confidence, but it's false. It's rooted in stuff that's not healthy, right? Now, notice in all we've talked about in these weeks, all that I've shared, I've not mentioned anything about love languages. The reason for that is because love languages it's an elementary level of understanding how love works. Okay, if you're not careful, love language will make you vulnerable to pride, because it'll have you focusing more on what you're receiving than what you're giving. So I don't talk a lot about love languages. I talk about it with clients when they come in the office and they bring it up, to not dismiss them out. I'll talk about it, but it's very elementary. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. And I'm not saying that it's not relevant. I'm not saying that it's not, useful. But I'm saying you can't stay at the level of, love languages, because people often say, he's not speaking my love language. She's not speaking my love language. And therefore, I don't feel loved. And what I realized is God never speaks my love language. He never speaks my love language, but I do feel his love, and I believe that he loves me, right? And so remember I was saying, I wish I really need another session, because one of the things I did not do was spend a lot of time on what you should expect, how to use your love radar to know what you're looking at, right? Because some of you allow what you should not allow in the name of love. Okay. And then some of you reject what you should not reject because you don't recognize it as love. And some of you may know so that's my reality. My dad passed in December, and sadly, I did not realize his love for me until I was writing his eulogy. That's too late. I'm 47. That's too late. Okay. And so all of what I've shared about love and how to do it and what it is, it's really simple, but it's not easy. Okay. It's simple, but not easy. The truth is, I can give you all of the information and tools you need to build a great marriage or relationship. But when it comes to implementing it, you will struggle if you do not fix your heart. Now, let me explain to you what the heart is. Okay, let me explain to you. And I have a slide that I want to use to kind of explain to you. Well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't use the slide. That was the difference for today. I used the slide. I don't know if it threw everything off. So I tell you what, I'm not going to use a slide just in case. And I did not sing my song. Lena, no, I didn't sing just in case. Okay, so let me tell you about the heart. And we're doing good time. I'm almost finished, actually. I thought it was going to be longer than this. So here we go. And this is where you need your notepad, all right? Because I'm going to give you a lot of information that you're going to need to refer back to. Okay. Now, you are a spirit. Okay. You have a soul. You live in a body. Okay. You are a spirit. You have a soul. You live in a body. Your spirit is the only part of you that can connect with God. Your body connects you to the earth through your five senses. Okay. Your soul is the essence of who you are. Your intellect, your emotions, your thoughts, your personality, your selfhood. Okay. Now, your brain is the CPU of the body, the central processing unit of the body. The brain is the computer of the body. Okay. The heart is the CPU of the soul. Okay. So the brain is the CPU of the body. The heart is the CPU of the soul. Your spirit desires spiritual things. Your spirit does not desire anything natural. Okay. But your body or your flesh desires earthly things, desires earthly pleasures. And they're not all, like, your body desires to eat. Your body desires sex. Your body desires to feel good, right? Those are earthly desires. So the spirit desires spiritual things. The body desires earthly things. The soul determines the one that you choose to feed, which will then determine the one that grows. Are you with me? Right? Make sure you're with me. So the soul determines whether your spirit's going to grow, whether your flesh is going to grow, by which one it feeds. Now, so what does that mean? So then that means, because the heart is the CPU of the soul, right? So your brain can tell you, I want to be a great lover, but the health of your heart will determine if you can do that or not. Okay? Now let me check, make sure. The slide is not where it went black. Yeah, I understand, but I didn't know if that was the difference. So the health of your heart will determine whether or not you can do what you think you've made up your mind to do. Okay. So now look, watch. The writer of Proverbs says, above all else, guard your heart, because from it flows the issues of life. Guard your heart above all else. He did not say, guard your bank account. He did not say guard your education. He did not say guard your career. He said guard your heart above all else. And then another part in Proverbs, he says, whatever a man thinks in his heart, then so is he. Okay. So your heart is where your beliefs reside. Your heart is where your beliefs reside, which determine how you live your life. All right. We talked about beliefs last week. We watched those two videos. So when your heart is filled with love, the automatic response to God and others is love. So how did your heart become damaged or corrupted? Well, for most people, it happened in childhood. That's what we, talked about last week. For most people, your heart gets damaged in childhood, sometimes in adulthood through different relationships or whatever. But your heart gets damaged. And so you did not ask for your heart to be damaged, but you are the one that have to deal with it, right? So here's a basic, this very, very, very basic, rudimentary explanation I'm about to give you, right? So your parents damaged your heart by being the imperfect, flawed beings that they are, right? And now that you are no longer a suggestible child, like we talked about last week, the only thing that can fix your damaged heart is to be filled with God's love. You will not be able to be an effective lover if you do not allow love to come in and fix what's broken. Okay? And because you need love to come in and fix what's broken, there is no human love that has this kind of repairing power. There is none. And the problem is, oftentimes, we are looking for humans to feel what only a supernatural being can feel. That's why you're never satisfied. That's why you're constantly searching, right? Now, before you ask me how as far as this process. Before you ask me how, let me just tell you that's a discussion for offline because it can, take some time. And believe it or not, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to have church. I'm just sharing truth with you, right? And so if you have questions about that, definitely hit me up offline and we'll talk about it, right? So now, how do you know if you have a damaged heart? Because of what comes out of you consistently. I'm not talking about every now and then, but I'm talking about consistently. When I say consistently, I'm talking about so every time this thing happens, this behavior comes out. Now, consistently is every time this thing happens, this behavior comes out. Even though this thing does not happen consistently. You feel me? But when it does happen, this behavior comes out, and this behavior is a negative behavior. That's an issue. So that's what I mean by consistency. So don't think because you only blow up once a year that you don't have anger in your heart. If you blow up once a year, but it's always around this one thing, then you may have a damaged heart, right? So look, so the way that you recognize a fruit tree is how? By its fruit, right? So the way that you recognize if you have a damaged heart is by the fruit that you produce. The fruit of a tree represents your words and your behavior, and the roots of the tree represent your heart. So if you find that in your relationship, you're always triggered, or you become disrespectful when you're disrespected, right? You can't forgive when you're injured, then you might have a heart issue. Try if you may, but there's nothing in the creation that can fill the void that was only meant for the Creator, right? God would not give you a life that would make him irrelevant. That doesn't even make common sense. He would not give you a life that makes him irrelevant. And you not understanding him, who he is, what he does, how he operates, that is not a caveat to circumvent how he has designed you to operate. You don't have to believe it. So whether or not you believe humans can fly does not change the law of gravity. Okay? There are laws that exist regardless of if you believe them or not. You can believe all you want that you can breathe underwater with no apparatus. Try it. You're going to die. Because your beliefs don't change reality. Your beliefs can change your life and how you interact with reality, but your beliefs don't change reality. Okay? So, now, I hope that you've gotten a couple of things out of these webinars that we've been doing over these last few weeks. So this is the, I want to say it's 3 in this series. This is the 5th one. I thought it was the 4th one, but I did 2 before I did the love series, didn't I? Because I did the first one, the quarantine, then I did the emotional intimacy or maturity, and then these 3. So that's what I wanted to share with you today about love. So, and here's how this came about. It's because I got a few more minutes. Let me show you share with you how this came about to go this way. Because this was not my intent. When I started this whole series, I wasn't expecting it to end this way. But I was writing in the love chapter of my book. And as I'm writing, first I had a conversation with a guy. And then from that conversation, I didn't understand what he was saying. So then I'm writing in my book. And what happened was I was watching TV. And as I was watching TV, I was looking at the NFL draft, and I said something in my mind about a person on there that wasn't kind. I didn't know the person. I did not think, I'm finna say something unloving. I did not think I'm finna be unkind. It just came out. And then from there, I was like, why did that come out? For it to come out, it had to be in there. And then when that happened, the light came on the other conversation that I had with the guy. What he said made sense, which is what I just shared with you, that when you're full of love, the natural outpouring is love. And so, and how I got there is because what I said about the player that I said, that came from my subconscious, which means it had to be in there. And so then I understood when you're full of love, that just automatically comes out too. So then I was writing in the love chapter, and I started writing about the heart. And this was the outworking, what I just shared with you, of it. And then I had a session with a client, and they're dealing with some issues, and they have an affair in their marriage, and the offendee cannot forgive the offender, even though they say they love each other. No matter how in depth I go about forgiveness, what it means, what it is, and love and all that, couldn't get there. And so then it hit me. It's a heart issue. It has nothing to do with your spouse. You have a heart issue. And the problem is we are really good as humans with deflecting and blaming other people. Like, my example, we're good at, if you slap me and I slap you back, then I'm good at blaming you for, I slapped you because you deserved it. You hit me first. No, I slapped you because of how I respond to being slapped. All me, nothing to do with you, right? And that's the main message I'm trying to get to you through this series. How you live your life is up to you. Don't let it be up to other people. If you're a good person, be a good person because you're a good person, not because they are good and they're not making you act crazy. In the same way, if you are a loving person, be loving. But again, if you try to do all of what I've shared and there's an issue with your heart, you will not be able to walk it out. You're going to hurt yourself and possibly your mate. You won't be able to do it. I've tried it. I've tried it for years. It does not work. You cannot love because love is too difficult. It costs you too much. Our greatest desire is to give and receive love. But our motives are often wrong because our heart has been corrupted. So I'm waiting for y'all's questions now. And good. Pride will sabotage your life. Absolutely. And let me speak more on pride also too, because so in our English language, we use words for similar things and we mean something different. So being proud that your child graduated is not the kind of pride I'm talking about, right? So the kind of pride I'm talking about is a unhealthy focus on self, right? There are other names for it. I just like the word. I like pride, right? Some people call it ego or something, but I like pride. So that's what I mean by pride, an unhealthy focus on self. You cannot love your mate while focused on yourself. When you do that, your motives are tainted. You're giving to get. That's not love. That's bargaining. Love is not transactional. That's something I did not share with y'all. That's a saying I used to say all the time. Love is not transactional, meaning love is not, I give you this, you give me that. When I go to Starbucks, I don't go to Starbucks. Where's somewhere that I go? When I go to Home Depot, I love Home Depot. I give them money, they give me tools. That's a transaction. Love is not that way. Love, you give, and this is the part that people have trouble with, but it's probably because your heart's not right. But love does not expect a return. I'm not saying love does not deserve a return. I said love doesn't expect one, meaning love doesn't show up expecting it to come back. And the problem is a lot of people get married with that in mind. You're going to injure yourself. If someone expressed they want a divorce and then verbally assaults you, that's both. So fear drives pride, right? So fear, when you see fear and pride is behind all of the human dysfunction that you see. But if somebody say they want a divorce and then they verbally assault you, I'm gonna pack their stuff. Let me stop. I shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna cut that out. That won't be in the. I guess it'll be in the replay if you see it, because I don't have a way to edit that. But I'm just yeah. So let's see. Can you give examples of giving love versus doing favors? Yes, I can do that. So love is now is It's not black and white, but it's close to black and white. Like it's a little gray. It's not crisp black and white, if you can follow my analogy. We're talking about favors and love. So love is primarily, not only, but love is primarily for meeting needs. Okay? We have relational needs. We have, we humans have to connect. For example, and this is kind of something, speaking on something I want to speak about in the future. When your child does something you don't like, you can't punish them by sending them to their room. That is a relational injury. You're isolating them, right? That's punishment. You don't want to do that. So, why did that come up? Because I was talking about pride, and so love is primarily about needs, and I was making that point to say that that's a relational need, and you should not do that. But that was somewhere. So anyway, back to your question. So love is primarily about needs, and favors are not things that you have to do. I'm trying to think how better to explain it so you can get it. Because I know I talked about it previously in our other webinar about favor, but I'll just use the example that I gave. So you don't have to cook your man food, right? That's not that you can do it because you love him. But if you don't do it, it does not mean that you don't love him, right? That doesn't really go in the love category. Why? Because he can feed himself. He really can. He can go buy something. But if he can't feed himself and he needs you to cook because he has a special diet and you decide not to do it, then that's love. That's not favor. But when you are doing favors and the person don't keep up their end of the bargain, then if you do it still, then that's called grace. So the difference, I don't know. So the difference between love and favors is love is not earned, favors are. You do for me, I do for you. That's favor. And we may have to talk offline because maybe I need to create a list. It won't be able to be an exhaustive list because I'm not that smart. I don't know who he is. Not smart, but I don't have that much information to everything that's on the love list and everything that's on the favorite list, right? Because sometimes they jump, whatever. But I hope that answered kinda. But hit me offline and we'll talk about that. If you drop pride and that other person take it for weakness, that's not your business. It's not your business how the other person sees you. You know how long I struggled with how people saw me? As long as I struggled with that, I could not be me. And now, Doc, I don't care. You can think I'm weak if you want. Don't run up on me. You can think I'm unintelligent if you want. You can think I'm a terrible therapist. That's your opinion. Doesn't bother me. But pride is your business. You don't not be good because of how someone's going to respond to it. You don't not be truthful because of how someone's going to respond to it, right? I know that there are people on here who probably don't care nothing about God. I know that there are people on here who don't agree that Jesus is God. That's fine. That ain't changed me speaking the truth. If they don't like it, they have a right to leave. You can't muffle the truth. You can't not be you because of how someone else is going to respond. That's called people pleasing. That will sabotage your life and it will prevent love from flowing. Let's see. If you don't feel like you are receiving love, although you're giving it, at what point do you address it? Immediately. Well, let me give a better answer than immediately. You talk to them because remember, so if you love them, your goal, so you are for them. So if they're not loving you, they're messing up. They're in trouble. They need help. And so you put on your fireman's uniform and you go in and you say, hey, what's going on? Because you're not loving the way that you signed up to be, which means then you're not right with God. I want to help you treat your spouse better, which is me, because right now you're not doing so well. So am I doing something to hinder you? Is there something in your life going on that's hindering you? What's the issue with why you're not giving Why you're not giving love? And then also too, you got to look at yourself and question, did you choose someone who from the beginning has always been incapable of loving? You just thought that it was love because your heart and their heart was kind of not right. And now that you're giving and they're not, you're like, hey, wait a minute, but it's what you signed up for. I'm not saying that you're subject to it forever, but I'm saying recognize usually when people hurt you, it's not about you and it's not intentional. Even if they intentionally hurt you, it's something else going on inside of them most of the time. Okay. Is resentment considered pride or fear or both? Resentment, I'll be honest with you. Resentment is actually a difficult thing for me to explain and deal with because I hear people say, I resent you. To me, it just sounds like bitterness, right? So I know how to talk about bitterness, but yes, so resentment is pride because you're obviously holding on to something. What are you holding on to it for? Let it go. You're only hurting you when you hold on to pain. Forgiveness is the answer to resentment. I don't resent you. I forgive you. Because I forgive you doesn't mean we got to stay in relationship. We may have to part ways, but I'm not holding this against you. You don't have to pay me back. That's what forgiveness means. You don't have to pay me back. I'm good. You go your way, I go mine. I don't need anything else from you. But let me see. My husband says I stay in the past because when he does something hurtful again, is that staying in the past? If so, how to move forward? No. I tell people that. Nobody, maybe I shouldn't say nobody because that's like saying never, but usually people don't choose painful situations to hold on to in their brain because they like pain, right? So if something is repeatedly happened, the reason that it keeps being brought up is because it's never been resolved, right? My ankle is still sprung. That's why every time you step on it, I say, ouch. We never healed it. Okay. So no, that's not necessarily living in the past. But my question would be, why does he have the same bad behavior? What's up with that? Because that's not what love does, right? Love is going to be about getting better to treat people better. But that can't happen if the reason he keeps repeating that with you because he's not good with himself. It's not possible. Have you ever met somebody who was like full of love or full of joy? You can curse them out. They're not giving you that back. Why? Because what's going on the inside of them. But the reverse is also true. You can be happy-go-lucky. You come across someone who's bitter or ugly or not good inside, they're going to look at you sideways. They're going to curse you out. They're going to have an attitude because they're not good inside. So he got some heart issues that he needs to address because it's hindering his happiness. Not just yours, it's hindering his too. Some good questions. Now we're approaching a minute. Not a minute. We're approaching an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and end. But you guys are going to join me on the live on Friday, right? Listen, something I had not shared with you. I'm going to share with you 17 real quick. Go to my Facebook, not my personal one, because you won't find it. If you do find it, I'm not accepting you. Okay? So you don't think I'm being rude. I'm just telling you up front. Unless you're already my friend. Some you are already my Facebook friends. Like I know you. But anyway, go to the business page, A Better Family Now, because I'm also going to go live on there sometimes because I figured out how to do it. So I'm going to go live on my Facebook business page, A Better Family Now. So make sure you like that page, and I'll send you an email to let you know, hey, I'm going on Facebook today instead of the webinar, but it's still going to be live, and you can ask questions, and we can interact or whatever. I would do it Friday, but I'm so locked into because I've already advertised for YouTube, so I'm gonna do YouTube. But I may do Facebook like either tomorrow or Saturday, because I'm trying to do videos as much as possible, to teach as much as possible, to help as much as possible, so that you can have the best relationship possible. My goal is to help. Okay. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions. So thank you guys for joining me. Hope this wasn't too rough for you. I hope it wasn't too theological to where you could not swallow it. But if that's the case, just drink some water because you need it, right? Don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. All right. You guys have a good couple of days, and I will see you on Friday on YouTube. Oh, wait, here's another question. So how do you work on your flaws and be accepting of your spouse as well? Therapy. That's the short answer, because the long answer, well, we don't have time, right? How do you work on your flaws? The first thing you got to do is address your heart issues, period. And that's not necessarily, when I say that, I don't necessarily mean like going to church when I say address your heart issues. I'm talking about your childhood stuff, your beliefs about yourself, your shame, your guilt, the people pleasing, the codependence, the anger, like dealing with that stuff will start to get your heart right. And then you can allow love to come in so that you can, because you're right. You know, you didn't say, your question implies it. You cannot accept your mate if you don't accept you. And most people, believe it or not, even the ones at the top who are successful, making all the money, do not accept themselves. Yeah. So, okay, I got to go. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.